While the term globalization may be relatively new, the concept, however, has been around for centuries. Throughout history, advances in technology have enhanced communication, trade, and the free exchange of ideas, which benefited many people in the world. Whenever countries have closed themselves off from the rest of the world, communication, trade, and the exchange of ideas have been hindered. Globalization is a process by which regional economies, societies, and cultures have become integrated through a globe-spanning network of communication and trade. Globalization came about during the Industrial Revolution, which took place in technology and other industries during the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. This revolution led to many changes in the way people lived and worked. Industrialization led to the movement of people from country areas to the city, where they worked in the newly formed industrial areas. The new inventions of the Industrial Revolution made it faster and cheaper to manufacture goods and in larger quantities. Many of these new inventions required natural resources such as water, coal, iron ore, as well as rivers and harbors to deliver the goods and raw materials from faraway lands. The improvements in transportation made it easier to trade and carry goods longer distances using the steam engine on ships and eventually the railroad. Railroads changed life, allowing people to work further from home, which led to people living and learning about different cultures. The invention of the telegraph also made it easier to communicate and allowed news to travel quickly. World War I also continued to make the world more interconnected. World War I was caused by the rise of nationalism that occurred in Europe. Nationalism is the belief that loyalty to a person's nation and its political and economic goals comes before anything else. At this time in history, people began to view themselves as members of a nation. Many countries where people shared a common language, history, or culture began to compete for colonies that would support their need for resources and trading partners. Countries began to form alliances. All this was made possible by better transportation and communication. People were beginning to get a world view of problems instead of seeing issues from a local, regional, or national point of view. World War II is widely believed to have been caused by problems that were left unsolved by World War I. Germany and other countries felt humiliated by their loss in World War I, and new leaders such as Adolf Hitler stirred up nationalistic feelings that led to their desire to dominate the world. The Allied powers' goals were to fight against ideas that threatened their worldview of what was right. For example, the Allies, the United States, United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union fought against Nazism because of their fear that Hitler would take over Europe and become a world leader and superpower. These dreams of world domination were made possible by the forces of globalization. Airplanes made far-off wars easier to fight. Sophisticated weapons allowed dreams of conquering larger areas more realistic. And leaders were able to communicate with their countrymen to get support for their plans. News also traveled quickly during this time. When the D-Day invasion of France began, the news was sent all over the world quickly due to radio and newspapers.
My fellow Americans, last night when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass with success thus far. And so, in this poignant hour,
while globalization has led to many positive changes in the world and has been furthered by technological changes, there were also times when this process was hindered. One of those times was during the Cold War period. During the Cold War, there was distrust between the Soviet Union and the West, led by the United States. The West viewed the Soviet expansion as a threat to its individual freedom and free market way of life, and many who lived under the Soviet rule tried to escape to the West to have freer lives. This is illustrated best by the escape of East Germans from East Berlin to West Berlin, which led to the building of the Berlin Wall in 1961. There were two main reasons for building of the wall. The first reason was economic. Too many well-educated people moved from East Berlin to West Berlin, which led to a reduction of skilled workers in East Germany. The second reason was political. The Soviets were embarrassed by their citizens escaping to the West. Estimates are that between 100 to 200 people were killed trying to go from the east to the west side. Physical barriers between the east and the west prevented the free exchange of